Absolutely. And 1992 and Smoky Mountain now. And going to bring up this picture here, see if it brings back any memories. But there's yourself, Sweet Stan Lane over on the right-hand side, Jim Cornette's in the middle, along with beautiful Bobby. But the heavenly bodies were formed, were created. And I think up until that point, you're mostly known as a singles competitor, as a singles performer. But the heavenly bodies kind of, they had a tremendous run in Smoky Mountain. 8 times tag team champions, 5 times with Sweet Stan Lane and 3 times with the Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey. We'll talk about Jimmy in a minute, but whose idea was it to form the Heavenly Bodies? I'm guessing it's Jimmy's idea, and seems to be a little bit of a more up-to-date version of maybe the Midnights or something like that. But tell us about the origins of the Heavenly Bodies.
Well, I was at the end of my run in Memphis, and Jimmy was getting ready to open Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and he was going to bring Stan and Bobby in as the Midnights versus Rock and Roll Express. But Bobby had a contract he had just signed, and Stan and Jimmy had just had enough of WCW. So Jimmy had called me up and asked me if I'd be interested in forming a team with Stan, and he was thinking about calling it the Heavenly Bodies. And of course, I had just done about a year and a half, 2 years, or maybe a year and a half in Memphis, and I was ready to leave. And it was right down the road in Knoxville. So I came in. We did the Heavenly Bodies, Stan and I. And that picture that we took was when Bobby was on loan from WCW, and came in and we did an angle in Smoky Mountain, which was translated into Super Brawl, I believe it was. And it was Jim Cornette's idea. He was just rehashing the Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express. But I was so fortunate and I was so happy to do it because I always liked Jim, always liked Stan, both very, very good guys and great to work with. Had a lot of fun with them. So it was tremendous. And working with the Rock and Roll Express, what more could you ask for? It was like a night off every night. We enjoyed it.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Rock and Roll Express, because I think the Heavenly Bodies and the Rock and Roll Express, they just go together so well, that the chemistry and the storytelling. But you guys feuded for years. So some of the matches, because I don't think those two teams ever had an ordinary match. There was always some gimmick, some stipulation added to it, like a hospital elimination match. I don't know what that is, but it sounds really fun. Street fights, Texas death matches, steel cage matches, falls count anywhere. The loser gets tarred and feathered. I mean, the Rock and Roll Express will go down in history as one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And it just sounds like the two teams just had so much fun when you were out there.
Well, it really was. I mean, if you couldn't work a match with Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, you didn't belong to be in the business. And I always said that about Brad Armstrong, too. Brad Armstrong, by far, has to be one of my favorite singles opponent to work with. And no matter who he was in the ring with, Brad, I'm talking about, if you couldn't have a great match with Brad, then you should get out of the business.
Such a natural talent.
Yes. So the same thing with the Rock and Roll. You just had to pay attention to what was going on, and we had the spots. We knew how to call audibles. We knew how to switch gears, and it was great to work with those guys every single night because you didn't have to think about it. You just go out there and feel it. And Ricky Morton, to me, is still one of the greatest baby faces of all time.
Oh, and they're still going out there and performing, doing some wonderful things.
Well, Ricky's more or less teaming with his son these days, but true. So
fantastic. And a little bit of a change here, because in '93 the Bodies lost a match against the Rock and Roll Express. The loser of the fall leaves Smoky Mountain, and by the looks of it, the person that was the recipient of that fall was Sweet Stan Lane. I think he possibly got signed up to the WWF at the time as an announcer or a commentator. And then in comes, we see the introduction of Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey. Now, for my money, Jimmy's one of these talents that was very, very natural, untapped, and just could do pretty much anything in the ring. A perfect fit for the Bodies as well. Tell us about Jimmy coming into the team as a replacement for Stan.
Well, Stan, I think, had got a little tired of coming from Charlotte to Knoxville all the time, and he had already pioneered a couple territories, so he was tired. He was ready to go. And when Jimmy Del Rey was suggested by Kevin Sullivan because he was in Tampa, not really doing anything. And when Jimmy came in, I remember the first night, he's missing a tooth, he's smoking cigarettes, and a lot of the guys are looking around going, who in the hell is this guy? And we go to the ring. We laid out the match, and we go to the ring, and this guy blew everybody away, man.
Oh, phenomenal.
He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. And so he won Ricky Morton over, he won Robert over, he won us over, and he was a great talent in the ring. The only thing was, outside the ring, I'm the kind of guy I like if we went somewhere, I want to lay back and I want to kind of check things out. I don't want to make a whole lot of noise when we walk in, but Jimmy wanted to let everybody know we're there, and you need to have that. But man, he was a tornado.
Steam.
Yes, he was a whirlwind. And I'm sitting back. I want to sit at a table, or I want to sit in a corner and kind of watch and kind of see what the lay of the land is. And so we meshed in the ring pretty good. We meshed outside for a little bit until finally I said, I'm going to go there and you go over here. So,
yeah, I